hit like and subscribe. You're watching the Marc Lamont Hill official YouTube channel.
Good morning. Good morning. How are you, family? Ekaro, Eko She Opatala. It's so good to have you back. I'm so happy to welcome you back to Ascending. I am your happy host of Ascending, April R. Silver. We have an amazing, powerful, jam-packed show. So buckle up. I can tell you now, it's National Poetry Month. We always celebrate arts and activism. So go ahead and do what you do. Get settled. Tell your people to log on. And if you are watching us on Marc Lamont Hill's Twitter channel, it's all good, but we would really appreciate for you all to switch over to YouTube. So that's a big thing. So we welcome you wherever you're watching. But for real, we really want you to switch over to Marc Lamont Hill Official on YouTube. But regardless, we thank you so much. And like I said, National Poetry Month, we're going to be talking about spoken word and poetry and performance and how that relates to arts and activism. But while I'm saying that, go ahead and tell us where you're from. Tell us where you're watching from in the comments. I'm not watching the comments at the beginning of the show. So if you're a regular, thank you so much. If you're watching from wherever in the world, go ahead and put it in the chat. That's encouragement for me to be quite honest. But let's go into the regular things that we do, right? Which is bookmark. If you're a regular, you know we start off the top of the show with a bookmark. So we lift up Black writers, independent writers, and because it's National Poetry Month, I want to big up my mentor, our great mother, Sonia Sanchez, and the bookmark is Does Your House Have Lions? So whether you have the book, whether you can purchase the book, if you can't purchase it, you can borrow it, but give it back to the owner. Go to the library. Anything by Sonia Sanchez, you should definitely get your hands on. She is our great mother, an amazing humanitarian, an amazing poet. You all know she was on the show. We're going to talk about what she talked about when I had her as a guest. But that's the bookmark for today. The 19th day of, is it the 19th? Yeah, it's the 19th day of National Poetry Month. So that's the bookmark for today. Thank you so much. So in honor of National Poetry Month, we have someone who is who's become like family. Like there's a heart-to-heart connection that I'm really excited to be able to share. This is DURMERRICK Ross, who is a poet, a spoken word artist, who's an amazing intellect, an amazing mental health awareness advocate, and someone who just has a lot to share at a relatively young age compared to me, I should say. I am really, really happy to usher this conversation to the entire community. So let's bring to the stage, get ready for a delicious conversation. Let's welcome DURMERRICK Ross. How are you?
I am so well, April. If I was my pastor, I would say I'm honeymoon happy and peacock proud to be here.
Yes,
with your audience, and then obviously the larger Marc Lamont Hill community.
Yes, and I don't know, you have been. I remember. Was I the one that told you about Marc Lamont Hill Official, or you knew about it before?
No, you told me. Yeah, you told me, and I was like, "This is." And I watched. I think it was around the time that it was like the first few episodes were coming out of Night School, and I was like, "Yeah, this is what I need to refuel that tank and re-stimulate those, those pieces of my body and mind that I think only a Marc can do, and the format of Night School, which is, I think, incredibly impactful and educational for a lot of people in a lot of different places. And so thank you for that, because that just, it felt like a domino effect to leading us here.
And then here you are on the only live show that he has had besides his own is Ascending. And so here you are, and you belong here, family. I can honestly say the conversations that we've had that we're going to get into around art, around poetry, around your advocacy work, you so belong here. So let's kick off the conversation because I want to lead with you as an artist, right?
Yeah.
And then we're going to get into your advocacy work because this is intertwined. So here we are, National Poetry Month, April 2025.
Yeah.
And arts and activism is what you do. But I would like for you to share your insights on why and how poetry is actually a healing art. I know it has been that way for you. So can we start there? Is that okay with you?
Yeah. I think for me, poetry has always been, it is the language of feeling. It is the language of thought. It is the language of memory. And so because of that, I think I'm always being healed by it because I am in real time accessing that place of feeling or that place of memory or that place of thought that I think gives me hope. And so it's like I am writing my way through life, and I am writing what I cannot necessarily communicate without the feeling of it. I'm writing that. I think the first poem is the poem that is felt within the body. It is that moment of epiphany or of revelation or of hope. And through writing it, I am, re-accessing that place in a way that heals me every time I pick up a pen.
Right. But let me I think that's a wonderful contribution to what poetry does. I want to get from you who inspired you, or how did you come to poetry? Is there a favorite poet or poem that you have from the masters?
No, so my way into poetry is a very interesting one. I think I often joke that I've lived 80 lives. And so I initially got into public speaking by listening to or reading the Martin Luther King I Have a Dream speech at like 8 years old. And from there, I, performed in so many church plays. And there was a brother by the name of Pharaoh Davis, who is, an incredible poet and playwright who really took me under his wing after that moment. And I started out like kind of reciting his work, and he would take me out to a lot of different, local spots and where I'm from. And, I got to sit at the feet of so many of the greats, so many of those who had graced the Def Poetry Jam stage. And what I didn't say is that Pharaoh is the son of ABIODUN or OYEWOLE, a founding member of the Last Poets. And so I think starting out, I was already immersed, and I didn't know it as a young kid. I just was, interested in Pharaoh's work. And that, turned into me in 2012. I think I wrote my first poem. I think for a lot of people in my generation, the death or the murder of Trayvon Martin was that inciting incident for us that really, pushed us into activism and organizing work. And that was when I wrote my first poem, the first spoken word poem, if you will. I wrote another poem when I was like 8 years old about the beauty of being Black. And so over the years, there are just too many to name, but I think that I am most fascinated by that, the legacy of the folks like, the Last Poets and, Gil Scott-Heron and those who, really use the power of the spoken word and make it alive again through, music, through dance, through performance. And then obviously there are so many, different other forms that, there are sermons, there are preachers and theologians who inspire me to think radically imaginative about the world that we live in a way that is still rooted in a liberation perspective or reading of the sacred text, the Bible. So there are theologians, poets, and then there are playwrights who are playing with, the different forms and of, theater and how people consume it. And I think my work is a collection of all of those different pieces, but rooted in a belief that the word is made alive again when it is spoken and when it is performed.
That is that's exactly what I wanted to pull from you. So thank you. Thank you so much. I also want to share that I talked to ABIODUN, like who you mentioned, who's a dear friend and a mentor. He actually called me out of the blue like last month. Every time I get a phone call from an elder out of the blue, I just like, how lucky am I? But we will have him on the show.
Yeah.
We'll have him on the show. He's been a client, he's been a mentor, he's been a friend, but he's an OG, like for real. So yeah. I wanna let the audience know that you're going to be performing. You're going to do one of your pieces at the end of before we go. So I just want to let the audience know, get ready. If you're watching or listening or whatever, we're going to be blessed. But this is what I want to talk about next, if I may.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. It is, and I'm just so blessed to be a part of that, that legacy and lineage.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I want to ask you real succinctly, what is the difference between poetry and spoken word? I don't know if we are freezing. I don't know. I think Durmerrick is frozen. Can you hear me okay?
I think he's having technical difficulties. I'm going to put you on solo for the time being.
Okay. So we're going to bring Durmerrick back, but this is why I wanted to talk about what I wanted to ask a professional poet, the difference between poetry and spoken word. Succinctly and crudely, this is what I know. Every poem is not a spoken word piece of art. And every spoken word piece of art is not a poem. One can be a spoken word artist and it not have anything to do with poetry at all. The person might be dramatizing a work that is not poetic. And what we really want to talk about, what I really want to make the distinction is that some poems are for the page and not for the stage. So, Durmerrick, did you hear my distinction between poetry and spoken word? I was trying to fill in the gap. Okay, would you agree?
I did.
Do you agree?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. For me, I think I think that there are like three different poems that exist. There is the poem that I mentioned that is first felt, and it is that, that thing that you can't quite put that you can't quite put words to, but the written form of poetry is trying to put words to that feeling that is that first poem. And then I think when you speak that thing, it is demanding witness, it is demanding to be heard. But I think what happens with performance and how I view performance is I am in each of those stages trying to reclaim that which is left behind when you can't quite write what is felt and you can't quite hear what is felt. You must feel it again. And I think Toni Morrison talks about this a little bit with like this idea of rememory, and that if a house burns down, that the picture of it, the place of it still exists somewhere. And if it still exists, it can be seen again. And I think with performance, we are trying to make the thing seen again, make that feeling felt again in real time. And if it can be felt again, then we can inspire hope. And I think that's like the guiding, mantra of my life has been the Tupac Shakur quote that is, I may not change the world, but I'll inspire the mind that does. And I think that, and so when I think of performance poetry, different than spoken word, different than poetry that lives on the page, I think of it in a way that is, reclaiming all of those things that we leave behind, and is itself another poem, not a delivery of a poem, but it becomes the living word of the poem, and you experience it in real time again. And that's the distinctions that I make between those, and how I and I think it shows up in my writing and how I engage audiences, because I think it is easy to tell people a thing. It is easy to, and it's different to make them feel that thing and arrive at that same conclusion by virtue of feeling it with you.
absolutely powerful. Like you said everything I wanted to hear, and I think, for the audience as well. I will say this, because we do have a delay in our conversation. When I ask you a question, I'm going to pause so that you can hear it. Just know it might feel awkward, but there's a slight delay that I'm going to compensate for. But I do want to say thank you, because that's exactly what I wanted to be articulated to the world. You're so amazing. I will
Yes, thank
ask
you.
you. Yes, yes. I will ask you this. Why do you give a damn about poetry and activism, or art and activism? Why does your poetry, your body of work, and what you want to convey through the writing, through the revisiting, why are you compelled to connect it to what's going on in our communities as a tool of activism?
Yeah, for me, I think they are, one and the same. I think about people like Amiri Baraka, who, said that we want poems that kill, and that this idea that poetry is not just a tool of expression, but can actually be a weapon in the arm of liberation. And I think that for me, that is why it is so important that my art be activism, that it be political, because it is all political anyway. And I with that lens. And so, yeah, I think about Amiri Baraka, I thought Marc, Bamuthi, Joseph, and again, this idea of the living word, who are speaking to me across generations who gave a damn. And I have a responsibility to be a part of that legacy and also give a damn, because if they could, I am, because we are this Ubuntu. Like I am, and I have a responsibility to those who are coming behind to say something that, might inspire them or make them say, wow, I see that too, or I've lived that too. And I think that is also the healing part of poetry. Like that is the work of poetry, is when someone can see themselves or feel that thing again, or access that memory, or access this line of thought, or this line of clarity that only is made real when the artist dares to imagine the world different than as it is. So, yeah.
That I want to hone in on, or zone in rather, on the part where you said about the point of clarity. There is art, or a technique, or a skill, or a talent that poets have, where in the most succinct way, in the most delicious, colorful way, clarity comes. Like sometimes we have all of these emotions and thoughts, and they're racing, and we're trying to find balance in the world. And sometimes only a poet can get us there, because of the clarity and the beauty, and like our great mother Sonia says, the deliciousness, of the word, and the metaphors and all of that. So I thank you for accepting the responsibility, and walking this path, because we need those voices. I want to ask you another question, that is a segue to your advocacy work, right? So my setup question is, why do you give a damn, right? Why is your art being used for activism? And that's a segue to the work that you do around mental health wellness. You do it for a very specific reason. You have a very specific experience that I would like you to share with the world. And so we'll share with the world even more. And it has to do with your own mental health episode when you were a student at Howard University. So can you bring us up to speed? Because there's the incident that happened, but then you have a victory in that scenario. So floor is yours.
Yes, thank you. And I want to just double down on something that you said about the clarity piece. There's also a poem I wrote that is about flying cars, and about the idea that cars do not fly, no matter if the driver is black or if the car is black. And this idea that Black cops don't save us. and that if, you know, we see the car and we can understand that a car will only drive, it'll never fly, then we can understand that a cop, whether black, whether, you know, queer, whether woman, is only going to do what a cop can do. But I love that I can walk people through that in poetry in a way that allows them to arrive at that same clarity differently than if I just said, hey, don't become a black cop. I wanted to double down on that. But yeah, the Howard piece of it all. And I think that brings us back to, you know, how we met and how I am a proof point of your impact and of the work that, you know, you did at Howard University. And so my freshman year at Howard was 2016, and I went to Howard to study acting. And by that time, I had been a preacher from 13 to 18, and then went to Howard University to pursue my dream in acting. And there at Howard University, being the first Trump administration, the onset of what would become the first Trump administration, so many of us were activating and organizing around Howard's commitment to its mission, its values, and to what we believed Howard University to be. And so a group of less than a dozen of us organized ourselves to HU Resist, which, you know, we issued a list of 6 demands to the university that now, thinking back on them, are so, you know, interesting. One of them was like a ban on Donald Trump being invited to any spaces. It was a commitment to the liberation of oppressed peoples, and to, you know, increasing resources, and also creating a Kwame Ture, you know, community center to uphold the legacy of Howard University and so many of the students who inspired us. And through that research, I found your writing, and in that writing, you know, Sonia Sanchez is speaking to you all, and by virtue of that, in '89, I believe, is speaking to us in 2017, when she says that, you know, when they tell you you're wrong to protest your university, you have to tell them it's because you love Howard. It's because you love Black people, and we've worked too hard to allow our institutions to end up in the hands of those who oppose us. And I use that work in you know, a freshman essay, and so I just am just so thankful to like be able to have this conversation that I believe we had in a spiritual way when I first found those words, the idea that the word is always living. And so thank you for your contributions and for making that work written so that I can access that again, and so that those of us in HU Resist did, and so too, you know, they continue to do. And so during my freshman year, like I mentioned, I was a preacher, and then I came out as gay. The end of my, you know, freshman year, I was Mr. Freshman at Howard on the debate team, and, you know, really struggled with, you know, all the things you can imagine a Black boy from the South in a very, you know, churchy community might experience. And so that ultimately led to me being hospitalized and taken from Drew Hall, it was 5th floor Drew Hall at Howard, and for suicidal ideation and extreme depression. Stayed in the hospital for about 4 days. Was discharged, went back to Howard, you know, to withdraw so that I could go back and continue care in Texas. And instead of withdrawing me, Howard failed me for that semester. And that led to me, which is why I'm not, you know, a Howard grad, though I, you know, attended, and Howard was my dream school. It was the place that I went to, you know, despite getting scholarships everywhere but Howard. But there was something there, and I think I enjoyed the time that I had there. And yeah, so Howard failed to withdraw me, and that led the groundwork. I got connected with an attorney, and at the time, again, I was already in the organizing, you know, I was with HU Resist, so this idea that I was just going to let Howard, you know, skate over me or let it go, like, you know, I was one of the, you know, founding organizers with HU Resist, so if anybody was not going to let it go, it was certainly going to be me. And so I met with an attorney who I could not afford, because, you know, we just did not come from that type of lifestyle or money. And the attorney basically outlined all the different ways she might take on the case. And one of them was through the Office of Human Rights, using their complaint format and filing an official complaint on the basis of disability discrimination. At the time, I thought I wanted to get into law school. By this time, I had quit acting at Howard. I had changed my major to poli-sci and really, thought I would go into law. And so I was fascinated by, taking it on myself, especially when I realized I could not afford her. And so in 2018, I filed a complaint with the Office of Human Rights and, gave over all the paperwork, did some initial interviews. And then, we met once to discuss a mediation. At that time, I refused because of what was being offered. And then I ended up graduating from Texas Southern in 2022, moved on to Los Angeles, where I currently live and work in entertainment. And I got an email September of 2023 from the Office of Human Rights saying that they found probable cause and that, everything that I had been fighting for all of those years and holding, Howard accountable, I had made a Twitter thread and like I had, been very vocal and reached out to a lot of different people. And a lot of folks were touching back, reaching out to me saying, hey, this
Durmerrick, pause for 1 second. We have some technical difficulties that I thought. Yeah, we have some technical difficulties that I thought were going to resolve themselves, but for a quick moment, for a long moment, where you were freezing, and I don't know if that translated to everybody else's screen. So we're going to bring you back on the stage, but I will say, because I'm familiar with the situation at hand. Durmerrick won the settlement. This is the Department of Justice that was engaged in this, and he won the settlement and has now begun the work of holding Howard University accountable for how it deals with its students when they have a mental health crisis. And so we are really, really grateful. Let's see if we can bring him back to the stage, but we are really, really grateful for his advocacy, and that's a lot of courage. Let's see if we're back and flowing. Durmerrick, can you hear me now? Or is there still a little bit of a freeze? See, you know what? I already told y'all this was going to be a part 2, and I didn't know that because of technical difficulties. I did not, but I want to show, this is HBCU Buzz. Did a piece or featured his work. This is the epitome of Durmerrick's advocacy work. And if you go to HBCU Buzz, I think it's .com, you'll find this work where he wrote a piece and he explains what you couldn't fully hear now is outlined in writing in this article that he wrote for HBCU Buzz. I believe that's HBCU, but yeah, there it is right there, hbcubuzz.com. The title of the article is HBCUs Must Lead on Mental Health, Even in Difficult Times. So we want to try one more time because we have a little bit of time. Thank you for the banner. We have a little bit more time. Let's see if we can bring Durmerrick back to the stage to see if the technical difficulty is okay or fixed, because I want us to flow. Is Durmerrick even in the no? Okay, so he's not in the space. So we will definitely. I already told y'all this was going to be a part 2, so that's a technical difficulty. I just had 50 million thoughts go through my head right now, but the importance of having courage, if one can muster the courage, if one can muster the fight and be cognizant when you know that you're being mistreated, even by the one in a relationship where you, in this case, where you adore Howard University. If you all didn't hear this part, there was Durmerrick shared with us that there was a lot going on. And y'all know, first time, second year college students, it's a lot that you're processing. And he had a mental health crisis, was in the hospital, sought to withdraw so that he can take care of himself. This was, I think he said, 2017. And what Howard University did, my beloved alma mater, was failed him. And so he knew that wasn't right, and fought that situation and won a settlement. The letter from the DOJ, this was a couple of years ago, affirmed that. So we want to definitely thank him for his coverage. We will have him back. I said that from the very beginning. It's like my nephew now. So we will have him back when we have a stronger connection. Oh, wait. There you are. There you are, fam. Can you hear me now? Maybe not so much. Okay, I was just being very slow and making sure that the delay would give time to connect, but we have some issues there. So what we're going to do now is make a shift. And again, we will have Durmerrick back, because you know what we missed? Oh my gosh, he was going to read poetry. So sooner than later, maybe next Saturday, we will have him back. Next Saturday, we're going to have Universes, right? We're still going to be celebrating National Poetry Month. So maybe we just make it a party. So we'll connect with Durmerrick Ross. Follow him on social media, right? Some of his poetry, if you can't see it live on Ascending, you can go to Durmerrick Ross on Instagram. That's where where you can see some of his poetry. He's got like several thousand followers. So just know that you can do that now, and then we'll bring him back hopefully next Saturday, because we're still going to be celebrating National Poetry Month. So thank you, everybody who's still here. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're watching on Twitter or Marc Lamont Hill's Twitter account, switch over to YouTube. That's beneficial for us all the way around. So we want to thank you regardless. So let's go into the next segment, right? The next segment, I get to bring on someone who has mentored me, I got a story to tell, but when we bring her on, she's mentored me in the field of marketing, in the field of arts marketing, very specifically. And this person, Donna Walker-KUHNE, is a OG, is like a boss, like with a capital B. I got to sit up straight when we start to talk about bringing Donna Walker-KUHNE to the stage. And so she's going to talk to us about arts and activism, as well, and specifically what she's doing at one of the oldest clients that we have. Shameless plug, shout out to the New Jersey Performing Arts Center, or NJPAC. So we got strong connections in Jersey, as y'all know. But Donna is a senior advisor there, and she's going to talk about some of the work that she has brought to the forefront, before the work at NJPAC and currently as well. So on that note, let's bring and welcome to the stage Donna Walker-KUHNE. Oh my goodness gracious, there you are. How are you?
Thank you so much. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. I could turn into like a 5-year-old just talking about your accomplishments. We're going to put up your book in a little while, but your work in the arts marketing field is historic. It's monumental. You the work that you do for the clients and getting people to understand our community, the importance of coming out to theater, the importance of audience development, the importance of not just doing the art, but marketing the art in a proper way. So we're going to talk about that, but I want to start with the work that you do at the New Jersey Performing Arts Center in the heart of Newark, New Jersey, downtown Newark, New Jersey. You're a senior advisor around diversity, equity, and inclusion. So let's start with what that is, what you do, and then the series that you started, if we may, please.
Of course, of course. Well, it's so wonderful to see you. And I have to acknowledge your pioneering work because you were advocating digital marketing before anybody else. You just saw that, here's a lane that I can reach my community. And you have a very designated Black community. So when we think about shows, when we think about April's List, we have a sense of who would really resonate with that art form. And you have just fine-tuned that over the years. So I have to acknowledge what an asset you are to the field. Thank you so much.
You know I'm official now, right? You know I'm official. Don, did y'all hear what Donna said?
That's right. That is right.
I thank you. The email is put on blast. Donna, you saw it early. You saw it for what it was. So I thank you. I am so completely humbled. But let's, I could geek out on that, but I want to talk about your work for real. Like, yeah.
So at NJPAC, I've been there now. This is my 13th season. I started at NJPAC as vice president of marketing, and I was responsible for generating revenue for all the various productions that we developed. But one thing I noticed, and I was new to Newark, all my work has been in New York, primarily in Harlem, and then with the Dance Theater of Harlem, and then in the Village at the Public Theater, and then Broadway. Those were the three landscapes I had really been working in for 30 years. So going to Newark was a very brand new experience. I think I knew two people, but I love a challenge, and it was time to just kind of expand my life. And so what I noticed, though, was the audiences were predominantly white, and I know that we were in Newark, which is predominantly Black and brown. So I started thinking about what's missing. And I knew that the Art Center was doing great work and absolutely engaging, diverse audiences. But I just thought we could expand that a bit more. And so that's when I started looking at more audience development opportunities. And then eventually created the community engagement department. And so at that time, in 2016, NJPAC was the second art center in the country to have a dedicated community engagement department, which meant that this effort was not based on generating revenue, but it was based on creating access to the arts and taking the arts outside of the building to different communities so people could see, oh, I can do that. This is a dance workshop. Oh, I can try that. Jazz jams. Oh, well, that's not so complicated. Reading, you talk about books, books are my passion as well. So I created a program, Books on the Move, partnering with libraries and, bringing in books authored by multicultural iconic figures who had performed at the Arts Center, partnering with the library to have it read by Wincy Terry, who is a fantastic teaching artist at NJPAC. She brings the book to life. It's much more than just reading the book. She talks about the values, the character, and then she brings in the art aspect as well. And so we've been doing that now since 2016. It's one of the most funded initiatives because people can see the result. It's books, it's children, it's a library, families, and each family gets a hard copy of the book. And so that has so these are things that we kind of created to build more connection to the arts. But then after the murder of George Floyd, and actually before then, we started talking about how to institutionalize our diversity, equity, and inclusion work, to be more intentional with that and build communities. And then with the murder of George Floyd and the pandemic, that gave us the opportunity to really create a platform. And so we looked at social justice as a way that we could really build awareness, but empower the community to say, these are the things you can do to change your environment. So we began 2 months after the murder of George Floyd with presenting a film and a panel. That's our format. And it's called the PSEG Social Impact Film Series. And so every month we highlight a different social justice issue. It could deal with ethnicity, it could deal with wealth, it can deal with politics. We don't so much talk about politics, but voting, can deal with housing, food, all kinds of topics. We talked about colorism. That was on fire. Ooh. I believe it. I thought my screen was going to explode because people had so many opinions about that.
Right.
and it's, we have, it was on Zoom, of course. We were all, in the pandemic, we were quarantined. And so a year ago, we came out of that. And so we do 4 of them in person now, and the remainder are still online. So we can still be in touch with our virtual audience. And it's been incredible to see the kinds of people and the amount of people that we've been able to touch, educate, and empower. So I'm very excited about that.
That makes you a visionary. You know what I mean? It makes you a visionary. It makes you an activist. It makes you someone, as I like to say, who gives a damn. And we so appreciate because the reality is, like, you didn't have to think about the community. You didn't have to think about, like, you made a decision to center our wellness, our civic engagement, our knowledge of self, and pulling people together to help us navigate how to evolve as human beings. And so we deeply appreciate it. I think the one you just had, correct me if I'm wrong, Donna, you had dying while pregnant. Yes. That was virtual, or
no? That was in person.
That was in person. Tell us about. Yeah,
it was very emotional, very passionate, because this is about the incidence, the high incidence of death of Black women while giving birth. It is in astronomical numbers, and particularly in New Jersey. And so the panel was based on health professionals and advocates about what can we do to change this? Black women should not be dying because they're having a baby. And it just represents a depth of racism, just so clear that I don't really care about you. I'm not listening to what you're saying. And one of the panelists said, as she was really struggling with feeling very uncomfortable, she knew something was wrong. And her OBGYN just told her, oh, it's okay. Don't worry about it. And another instance where another woman was saying she was in so much pain and they wouldn't give her anything. They told her, oh, no, you'll be fine. It's part of childbirth. And she just felt that, wow, they're not listening to me. And then, and she said, well, if they didn't listen to Serena Williams, then who's going to listen to me? And so one of the key points that came out of this panel was the importance of doulas of color, who were there to fight for you and keep you comfortable. And so one of the doulas had advised one of the mothers who was struggling with labor, to fire her OBGYN, which she did while she was in labor because it wasn't listening to her. Yes. I mean, the audiences went crazy. They were like, what? And so we also had 6 different organizations there exhibiting to share information about how we can support our Black women, how we can become doulas. What does that mean to really educate yourself? And then, hearing from men also who see their partners suffering and struggling. So it was very powerful. That one was produced by our women at NJPAC, which is a fundraising arm that we partner with for various events and activities to tap women in particular what our issues are. So yeah, that was available on our website. Anyone can watch it. All of our social justice.
No. I'm affirming. And the guys are going to put up njpac.com. Wait, njpac.org. Or are they going to put that on the screen? But Donna, I want to say that I brought up dying while pregnant as one of the events that you brought to the community. And as a reminder, everyone could see it because we just finished Black Maternal Health Week, which was it ended 2 days ago. Today is the 19th, and it's always April 11th through the 17th. We just had Dr. Danett. I'm going to do a shameless plug. Anybody who's watching, go back to the Ascending playlist and look at the whole segment we just did last Saturday. I didn't know you were going to talk about this, but last week, the one where we dedicated to Black Maternal Health Week, because I don't know that we can say enough.
I agree.
Black women dying while giving birth is like you said, astronomical. Like we're dying too much. I don't know if we can say that enough.
Agreed.
So I want to thank you so much for doing that. and tell people to go back to watch the previous episode just 7 days ago.
Yes.
But Donna, this is why I wanted you on to talk about this arts and activism work, because you saw a need, you used your power and your position to affect positive change. But here, fast forward, right, to now, 2025, and people don't know what DEI is. They're trying to when I say they, the White House, the administration, and Trump are trying to get people to think that it's something that is not. People are scrubbing their bios. They're scrubbing their bios. They're scrubbing their mission statements. They are scrubbing their websites. And when I mean scrubbing, I mean changing the language and changing their positions, because if they don't, they're scared that they're going to lose federal funding, or the DEI snitches are going to come out after them. So, but here you are standing firm. Your position and your title hasn't changed. And you know, Donna Walker-Kuhne is not scared of nobody. So let's just talk about that. Like, one, where does that courage come from? And what have you seen in your field? Because since January 20th, people are shaken and they're shook, but not you.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. This is very real. And I've never experienced this before, quite frankly. And this is my 45th year in the business. So no, I've never seen this. But what I see in the field, well, to answer your question, where does the strength of the courage come from, is because this is who we are. This is what we have to do. But it's not the first time. And so we have experienced racism on multiple levels since before slavery. So we have the muscles to be nimble, to say, okay, well, you want to do this word offend you? Well, I'm still going to do the work. I'll call it strawberries. Okay, fine. This is upsetting to you? Oh, let's call it bananas. And so I am not at all affected by continuing my mission. This is my mission in life. That's not going to change wherever I am. We may change how we frame it, what we call it, but that's not fear. That's being smart, because you're not going to decide my future or my economic impact because you are not confronting your supremacist attitudes. So that's on you. I can still continue to do my work, which is creating environments where we respect the dignity of each person's life.
Wow.
So that doesn't have to have a name. That's who we are. So we keep working to pull those qualities out. So that's my basic premise. What I'm seeing in the field, and I chair a board arts organization, and I sit on 4 other boards. So just speaking from the governance perspective, you know, arts organizations are concerned because most of them, 90%, are receiving funding from, you know, on a federal level or state level. And so even though you may not be getting funding from the National Endowments for the Arts, you're getting from your state council or even a more local effort. So it does, it sprinkles down. And it does become a question of how much can I fight? Do I have the resources, the brain trust? Who can stand with me? There's a lot of things to think about, you know, to make the decision to continue the work. One of the boards I'm on, we have a program that is named, this specifically is about developing Black and Brown arts professionals. That is the purpose of the program. And it is funded by the NEA. And so we had already been confronted a year ago by, you know, various white individuals who felt that this did not allow them to resource federal funding because they're not of color, and they wanted the arts administrative training. And so we met with lawyers, we talked as a board, and, you know, and really thought about how important this is to who we are. And we decided we're going to keep this program. We'll call it something else. So we call it our urban development program. You know, so we know that, and we know people of color know that means us, because we want the title to still signal that you're welcome to be invited. And we get to decide who we fund. So yeah, you can apply.
Wow.
You can apply. So there's just a certain amount of, I think, courage, bravery, intelligence that we have to do, because frankly, we don't know what the outcome will be. But as I talk to my colleagues in the field, all the other DEI people that are doing wonderful work, everyone's just trying to be smart and cautious about this. And that's from the nonprofit art sector. I've been reading a lot of articles from corporations, and, different ones have different ways of measuring this, but like Marriott, Hotel Delta, Costco, they've been very clear. We're continuing doing everything we've been doing because it serves our customers. And we believe this is our core value. And then there are other corporations we know, like Target and some of the other ones that said, nope, we're not going to do this anymore. And so we have power to decide how are we going to address those. The economic power within the Black community is huge. So let's be smart about looking to see who is supporting my life, who is supporting my community. And that's where we should invest. If it's not, then let somebody else do it.
Right. I'm glad I knew about Costco. Thank you. And Marc just did a piece on this earlier this week. And what is it? The boycott? Like, people are so showing their respect for Costco because Costco said, no, I'm not changing. So
Right.
their sales went up.
Oh,
And-
yes.
And I'm a Costco proud. I'm happy to be a Costco member now, right? So I knew about that, but I didn't know about the Marriott. I didn't know that they took a stance.
It's an
for
article
the
that just came out. Delta Airlines, Cisco. There's some wonderful articles that are really acknowledging those corporations who have very publicly said, we're not going to be swayed. And there's a difference because they're not, even though they come under the guidelines of the executive orders, they're not subject to withdrawal of the federal funding like the nonprofit sector is.
Right.
So that gives them a different kind of freedom.
Right. And they made a decision. And we're not saying that everything about these multinational corporations is perfect, but we are acknowledging in this moment that they made the right decision. And I think that's important to note. But I imagine, Donna, that this information is on your blog because you've been doing this weekly blog for years now. I'm in awe of your discipline. Can we find this list on your blog?
Actually, I stopped writing the blog last year. It had been there for 8 years every week.
Yes.
Every week. I was like, oh, I think I'm done. So no, I don't write the blog anymore. But the article that I'm referring to, let me see. I'll figure out how to put it in the chat.
Yeah. And we'll make sure that the resource page that is still in development for this show, we have a resource page that's coming. We'll make sure that we get it. So when people want to come back and do their homework and do some studying or whatever, they can go to that particular page. So we thank you for being the person that you are. But look, this is a good segue. I got so many things going on in my head that you said that were so spot on. But let this be the segue to your book, right?
Yes.
Because it's the decision that you made. Pardon, the boldness here, but that you give a damn. That's a decision, right? You don't have to do that. You've been in this work for 40 plus years, and you could just go for the bag and not give a damn. But you care about the community, and there's a science to marketing.
Absolutely.
It's not just, I have a great idea. Let's go do an event. Yes, and we can have T-shirts and hoodies and mugs because that's marketing. Like, that is marketing, but you're here to tell us that there's a science to this, and that's why you wrote the book, which we're going to put on the screen.
Yeah.
What was that? 2000 something? 2005. I have a copy. I just couldn't find it.
Yes. Yes, I wrote Invitation to the Party because at the time I was the director of community affairs at the Public Theater, working with George C. Wolfe. And, we had done the Broadway production of Bringing the Noise, Bringing the Funk with SavionGlover. And it was such a success because we were able to really bring in the Black audience in a way that hadn't happened yet at that time.
Yes.
And so, so I was being inundated with phone calls, producers, directors, everyone calling me. How did you get all these people of color in there? Like consistently, how did you do it? I said, you know what? Let me write this down. So that's what I never consider myself an author. Not at all. I mean, I am an attorney. I know how to write legal briefs, that sort of thing, but a book. And then I'm working in a theater with some of the country's greatest playwrights. I was so intimidated, but the field demanded the knowledge. So I had to get over that fear and say, girl, you know how to write your thoughts. And that's why you have editors. They help you. And so I approached, TCG, Theater Communications Group, and they were like, yes, we'll be happy to publish it. Hurry up, hurry up. And so I told George, I said, I'm going to write a book about the work that we do here. He said, okay, you've got 3 weeks. I said, fine, I can do it. So I approached it.
Look, in 3 weeks?
I did. I approached it like the bar exam. You get up at 4 a.m. and you hit it till midnight. I just kept going. And I wrote this book. And then, of course, the editing process took months. But
Right.
we got the book out, and it continues to serve the field. It informs you as to how to engage diverse audiences, how to sustain those relationships, how to build the marketing savvy that goes around it so that these become your predictable audiences. And it has filled with case studies of the work that I've done. So,
You are amazing. I'm just blown away even more that you just embarrassed everybody that's watching, right? Everybody's like, I want to be a writer. I want to write a book. And here you are with that wasn't your thing. And then you did it in 3 weeks. So everybody who's watching like me is like, yeah, I got to stop playing because I just got inspired by Donna Walker-KUHNE. But can I share this part, Donna?
yes.
I first met you when you were at the Public Theater.
Yes.
And I had this grand idea. This was my first event in New York City that I produced by myself. I had been producing stuff as a Howard student and collectively
HU,
like
law school.
I wasn't gonna say nothing, but I know the audience is sick of all of these Howard people, but
Yes.
it is what it is. But the story goes, the real life story. It was my first event at the National Black Theater in Harlem. Yes, the National Black Theater.
With Barbara Ann Tier.
With Dr. Barbara Ann Tier, may her soul rest in peace. And I don't know what made me think that I should do an event in New York by myself. Akila Work Songs was only like a couple of years old. But I had this pull in me to celebrate hip hop because we were getting a black eye as a community. And I did something called State of the Art. KRS-One came. That's a whole nother story. I'll tell the audience about how I met KRS-One and he came. The show was 8 hours long. Donna, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. The show was 8 hours long. Nobody wanted to leave, right? It was a transcendent experience. But here's where you come in. I knew about Bringing the Noise, Bringing the Funk. It was a phenomenon that was going on in New York at the time. Me and my bold self was like, can we get what was called the bucket drummers? I wanted SavionGlover and the bucket drummers.
Oh, yes.
And I looked up who to contact. I didn't know you from a can of paint. I just looked it up. And you were so kind to me, right? You were so kind. You were accommodating. I imagine in your head, you was like, who is this person that won't stop reaching out? And what is she
I love it. I love it.
But you were so kind. You did everything you could to get them to come. I think Savion couldn't do it, but we did have the drummers. The drummers. And I was like, I like her because you were just, you didn't brush me off. I was an amateur producing an event.
Not at all.
So
we
that's
all have a mission.
Yes. And you've been supportive of me and the Killer Work Songs and put on blast.
You're on all my marketing plans. No, we need this one. Get this one.
Yes. We're so appreciative. Donna, I want to give you the last word because I know, it's right at 12 and I know you might have to go. But can I just give you the last word and leave us with the thing that you really want us to know the most about your field, your work at NJPAC, just whatever you want the last word to be.
Yes. Well, I invite everyone every month to please tune in when they're virtual and in person if you're local, to come to NJPAC and really experience our social justice series. It's phenomenal. The panelists we have, the films that we screen, and the conversation, because you will leave with knowledge and tools about what I can do to help change my community. So I invite all of you to please join us and to sign up for all the wonderful things our community engagement department does. They produce over 200 events per year that are all free, in addition to the shows where you can see Diana Ross, Gladys Knight, The Temptations, and all the other people that you love. So please, you are all welcome. You're part of our family. Thank you. Thank you.
That is a powerful last word. And yes, NJPAC, NJPAC, for those who are listening and not watching, .org. It's a wonderful institution in our community right there in the heart of Newark, New Jersey. That organization has been a client. It's our first corporate client from the late 90s. From the late 90s. I have been associated with NJPAC longer than anybody there besides John. So I've seen the marketing departments and programming departments just come and go because I've been here this long.
Well, you were brought in with Stephanie and Baraka.
Yes. Shout out to Baraka SELE for sure.
Right. Baraka had it rocking.
What?
She built that. She listened to the community. Stephanie was guiding it with the program.
Yes.
Those two together, unbelievable.
Unbelievable. Yes. I'm so glad you shouted out Baraka, and I'm gonna call her and be like, yo, watch this, at this minute of the show. We shouted you out because she deserved it. She looked out for us, and so my relationship with that institution is an honorable one. I encourage it. You will see yourself. If you're a Black and brown, you will see yourself at NJPAC. And let me shout out the ushers. Every time I go to a they love their jobs.
Yes.
Like they make you feel at home, right? I'm not overstating that, right?
Not at all. I was shocked. I was so impressed. I mean, it is like you're coming into their home.
Yes.
And they look you straight in the eye and they smile. And some of them are volunteers, some are paid ushers. You can't even tell the difference. It is truly the culture of NJPAC. Yes. The welcome.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the people even in the box office. Like they look at everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody. And I just say that from my heart. It is an amazing institution. I've worked with them for so many different ways, and I'm happy to have worked with you outside of NJPAC as well.
Yes.
I could go on, but I know you got to go, and we got to do some closing out things. So we'll have you back. Yeah.
Love to. I'll come back and promote my second book coming out in October 15th. It's called Champions for the Arts. And it is my way of saluting local individuals who create access to the arts. Not just the big arts institutions, but the dry cleaners, the flower shops, the barbershops, barbers, all the places and people who say, yes, let's go and see this, because the arts still have this separation of it's for the elite, where you have to be a certain way, like the young man who was speaking earlier, he couldn't be his whole self, and he's an artist, so this book acknowledges that and talks about how we have to change it. So between my first book and my second book, you'll have covered the whole landscape of how to engage diverse audiences. And
that's a 20-year difference, right? The first book.
It's amazing.
Mm-hmm. Okay. We listen, I'm a woman of my word. So
I know.
You will be back. We'll tell everybody for sure. It'll be my honor. Donna WALKER-KUHNE, I love you and adore you and respect you so much with my full heart. I thank you for all of the decisions that you've made to stand with us in our community.
Thank you.
So we'll see you soon.
Yes. Okay.
All righty. Bye-bye. Oh, family. I feel like a 5-year-old. I'm so giddy. Y'all know what gets me excited. Like, this work in this field is really a calling. And I want to underscore the importance of discipline and training and focus, right? And it's not enough to be passionate. It's not enough to have an emotion and to have a way with words and you automatically get to call yourself a poet. That's not how it goes. It's not enough to have an idea, and wonderful ideas at that, right? About how to market an event and how to promote an event, and then you call yourself a arts marketing professional. It's not as simple as that. You're not going to know the depth of what it means to be a spoken word artist or a poet or a publicist or an event producer or an arts marketing professional. You're not going to know the depths of it until you have failure, until you do a show and you pour out the money and all of those things and nobody shows to your event, or you do a poem and everybody's like, what was that? Whatever. It takes failure and discipline and trial and error and dedication. And so we would say, and we talked about this on the Baraka episode, which is, what was that? February, the Baraka episode. I don't remember the date, but
February 15th.
Thank you. February 15th. Shout out to Kevin. We talked about that. Why would you want to align yourself with people who did all of this work and you've done nothing, but you have those titles? Like, it's not fair to the people who've actually done the work. Go back and watch that episode. We talk about what it means to have a certain stake, in this work. Do the work. You'll benefit from it. There's no loss to you if you do the work, if you do the study, if you know the people who've come before you, so you can have something by which to critique with love and to build upon and bring your imprint to it. But you don't get to identify in any of these, I won't even say professions, but these lanes, unless you've actually done the work. It's okay to learn and study and be quiet and listen. We just had 2 masters here, so I'm really excited. So on that note, Sonia Sanchez, let me just say this. We keep referencing Sonia Sanchez because she's worthy to be referenced. Let me remind you, we can go to the pin-it. This is the part where we remind people. For those who saw that episode with Sonia Sanchez, she put a charge out and she's ready for to continue to do the work that she does, which is to lead a haiku poetry workshop. If you are interested, look at your screen. And for those who are listening and not watching, email us, because we're going to make that announcement of how you can be a part of this small group session led by our great mother, Sonia Sanchez. We're organizing it. She's leading it. The email address for those who are listening and not watching, to get more information about the haiku poetry workshop, the email address is kind of long. Team Sonia Sanchez at AquilaWorksongs.com. Team Sonia Sanchez at AquilaWorksongs.com. You all know, some of you know, the regulars, that Aquila Worksongs is my PR agency. We're celebrating 32 years. Shameless plug. We just turned 32 this year. So we're the ones who are organizing it and sending out the information. And Sonia Sanchez is the one who's going to lead it and teach us about being poets. So I wanted to do that pennant. So on this note, I'm going to close out, but we're going to go for the comments. Y'all know it's too distracting to be watching y'all comments. So I'm going to do it like Bullet the Bunny's here. Oh no, I'm scrolling in the live chat. Welcome to everybody. Definitely. Sonia Sanchez is an amazing poet. Let's put that on the screen. I have her collected poems and love her work. Good morning. Who said that? That is Daniel. I think you might be new. I'm not sure, but welcome to Ascending. Y'all, I'm being real goofy right now. I see some regulars. Bison Brothers Basketball Podcast is here. Brooklyn is in the house. Rolando, hi. How are you? Regular. Just as a reminder, we're going to have Durmerrick back because we had some difficulties for sure. Rolando's all up in the chat. Mind over matter. That's a regular. Shout out to you. All right. I just wanted to scan and make sure that I didn't miss anybody. Rolando, I thought I saw Bullet the Bunny. Is she here today? There she is. Okay, I'm scrolling. Okay, all right. I just wanted to make sure I didn't miss anything. But we're here every Saturday at 11. Next week, we're still going to be celebrating National Poetry Month with Universes. Oh my God. If you all don't know who Universes is, just set up your Saturday on the 26th, actually. Universes will be here and see if we're going to see if we can get Durmerrick back. But thank you so much. We have 50 million announcements. I can't say them all. Just go to the website at KaylaWorksongs.com. Go to my social media. We're going to make some announcements. Shout out again to Marc Lamont Hill and to the team and to my team, all of the teams, Night School family, Bullet the Bunny. Thank you. So yeah, just come back. We'll see you next Saturday. In the meantime, stay up.